Sony PlayStation. It was GDC that all the rumors started floating around about the PlayStation Neo, the 4.5, this updated version of the PlayStation 4. Since then, it seems like everyone and their mother has had a leak coming out of somewhere about this console. So before we get into their games and their virtual reality stuff, Justin, first of all, PlayStation 4.5 pretty much dead on to be shown at E3?
It has to, right? You've had so many leaks, you've had so much information come out. E3 is the perfect time to introduce a new console like this, and it feels like it's about time in that console life cycle that you have a really high adoption for PlayStation 4. They're the dominant console by hands down. What's a way that you can get a little bit more subscribers, get more people playing it, have a slightly more powerful system, and something that's going to play into VR? Like, you need something that will probably support virtual reality in a better way. Because I think when they were showing the virtual reality systems, it's needed some kind of pass-through otherwise.
So everyone always talks about that, and maybe I'm misinformed, but from what I understand, that box does not do any actual processing, like the way we traditionally think about CPUs and GPUs doing stuff. From what I think Sony has said, that box is there to handle communication of data.
Okay.
So not the actual processing.
It's like routing data or something? Right, okay.
Yeah, so that would include audio and video that needs to go to the headset.
Right.
It can't just be a straight cable.
Yeah.
In that regard. So while I don't think that if there is a follow-up PlayStation 4 that it might help VR, I don't think that it's going to be like, this is the one for VR. It would be like we would see with regular games. They would just see an incremental improvement. Based on the rumors anyway.
The thing I think is really interesting with this is it's not weird to get, it's not different to get a new console in the middle of a life cycle. We've gotten the Xbox 360S back in the day.
Yeah.
You get smaller versions of consoles that are usually incrementally more powerful, but this is
PS1, PlayStation 3.
Nintendo 64 is the only console I can think of. That and the Saturn and the Dreamcast. That did not get like new versions of
incrementals.
consoles.
But this is one where they're specifically, or people are really highlighting, this is a more powerful version. It is the same console, it'll play the same games, but it's also going to be a better console. And that's a really interesting tactic. Of course, it's not marketing. That's not what they're going for.
Yeah.
This is what's leaked out. This is what we're latching onto. And so it'll be interesting to see how they spin that as well.
Yeah, totally. Do you think this is like the new normal, Peter, where like instead of us having these sort of, incremental SKUs, which obviously change elements of the console based on, the parts that they're buying, for instance, and whatnot. But do you think the idea of this sort of incremental, like within the same generation console is something we're used to on the PC side? Do you think that's the way we're going to see it going from now on?
I mean, possibly. We think of generations in terms of like these, rightly so, like, big chunks of time, right? If Sony was to come out with a PlayStation 5, just play devil's advocate, we wouldn't then say this is a next generation PlayStation 5, right?
Right.
So if we look at it that way, like I think eventually we will see a PlayStation 5, but will it be such a big leap from what we think the Neo is, or what might be a follow-up to the Neo before the PlayStation 5?
Yeah.
No, I think we're going to see these smaller upgrades over time persist, but we will still latch onto the concept of this is a new era of something, but the days of these huge gaps in technological performance between hardware iterations, I think, is done.
Yeah. Nintendo has done a great job with that, with the 3DS in particular, but before the 3DS, the Game Boy Advance, and like how all of those bled into one another. You were always able to play your back catalog of games on the new system. And then when they came up with another version, it would cut out some of the backwards compatibility, but introduce new functions for new games.
Yeah, get punished for holding on to that Game Boy Micro. I mean, it's basically the same we've seen in Apple phones and I guess phones just in general and tablets and whatnot. So it'll be very interesting to see the specs. I mean, that's what everyone wants to see, right? Xbox One's new specs, the Scorpio and 4.5. Stepping away from that hardware into Sony's other hardware thing, the PlayStation VR, previously known as Project Morpheus. The second in the trifecta of Matrix-themed hardware iterations we're going to enjoy. Where are we, do you think, with PlayStation VR, right? Because we're now living in a post-Oculus, post-HTC Vive world where people have gotten hands on it. It seems like there was a lot of interest there for a while, and we're kind of tapering off again, where some people have bought them, and they're now trying to get them in front of stores to get people to buy them. What do you think about interest over PlayStation VR, Peter?
The advantage they have, one is cost. Two is the ubiquitous, number of PlayStations that are out there. But the real thing for me are the sort of the properties that will be used to create VR games. Whereas a lot of the games that we're seeing on Vive and Oculus are these new things that no one really understands. Like, who are these characters? What is this world? PlayStation VR will be able to leverage Sony's great history of titles, and not that I'm counting this among the great history of titles, but you see the horror game that they're putting on that sort of the on rails.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I can't think of it.
We're good at our job.
Until Dawn, right?
Yeah, From Until Dawn. Thank you.
Yes.
And Psychonauts is getting a thing, and that's not necessarily a Sony property or one that was ever exclusive to their consoles, but
Rush of Blood, sure,
yeah. So, but yeah, I think that they'll be leveraging familiar properties to get people interested into it. I don't think we're going to see many grand experiences. I just recently finished playing Insomniac's Edge of Nowhere.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which I believe was made in tandem with Oculus Studios. So that won't be coming to PlayStation VR. But that was one of the first VR experiences that I played where it felt like a full game. Like Chronos was there as well.
Yeah.
It's a really good game. But there was something about Edge of Nowhere that felt even more advanced in that regard and providing the full experience. So I don't know if we're going to get a lot of that sort of thing out of Sony. I think that will take another year or so.
Or even be able to play experiences that we already have in VR. And Uncharted 4, it seems like it might be a weird fit for VR, but when I think about like being able to pull back the camera and see all around the world, because they put so much time and attention and care into these huge environments and expanses, like it would be so cool to have like a little Nathan Drake running along on the table, and I can look over and see this huge statue in the forest.
Yeah.
Sort of like what they do with like the Hitman Go and Lara Croft Go stuff, but like for
yeah, totally.
For non proper. Yeah.
I mean, at a certain stage, even if there's just a virtual reality option that isn't like super, I mean, you need to have your sort of
Tekken 7 is supposed to have it.
Great, can't wait. I'm sure actually there would be an audience for that, but just not for me. Let's talk about, I guess, the other aspect of that. We talked about it with our Microsoft discussion, which you can also check out if you're watching this on GameSpot or YouTube. Go check it out. We also sort of talked about how, what happens with Sony, and the reaction we have to that is so much dependent on what we have heard from Microsoft earlier that morning. Do you think if Microsoft come out and do some sort of tie-in with Oculus, that then the PlayStation VR ends up looking like sort of the lesser of the two of those?
Maybe to people who aren't enthusiasts in terms of gaming, how they care about it, because I think Oculus they were really notable because they were like, okay, we're doing VR, we're going to do it first, we know what we're doing, and they caught everyone's attention.
Facebook bought us for billions.
Yeah. And at this point, I think what it's devolved down to for them, because Vive has kind of stepped in, right, and sort of taken over the hardcore enthusiast market.
Right.
Oculus is far more mainstream. And if anything, I think Microsoft needs to latch onto that, and that'll be good for them to sort of define that. But when it comes to people, like us who really care about traditional gaming in that way and how that can be brought into VR, I think PlayStation VR will be able to stand on its own in that regard and not necessarily be compared one-to-one with Oculus.
Okay, a couple of games to jump into. First of all, I guess we're going to probably see some No Man's Sky now, especially that it's been delayed a little bit. I show off some No Man's Sky.
It can't be the same focus, though. Like, that was a big part of the show, and that's something I really want them to back off on. I don't want to see a lot of it.
I want to see how the economy works, like all the sort of like what you do with what you gather and what you discover. Like, show me more of that nuance, that kind of thing.
Even that'd be a cool one to see if they have virtual reality support. That would be, that might sell a bunch of PlayStation VRs as well. Moving on, God of War 4. What have Sony Santa Monica been working on for the past couple of years? I guess they released God of War Ascension.
PlayStation Battle All Stars. Was that even
right?
That was somebody else, I think. That was somebody else.
But I guess it feels like a sort of a mainline God of War have been rumored for a while. One without Kratos, like a starting sort of fresh thing.
And I think the rumor is like setting it in Norse mythology.
Okay, that'd be pretty cool.
Would be it's interesting.
Everyone gets kick off that. Europe's real hot right now. Witcher 3. Everyone loves a bit of Europe.
The same problem I have, though, with this is the issues we were describing with Gears of War 4, right? Like, God of War made such a big splash, and it continued to for a while, but it was helped somewhat by the advent of the PlayStation 3. Like, that sort of, jump-started the series again. But since then, it hasn't really achieved the same sort of, renown or attention.
Yeah, totally.
So maybe PlayStation 4 can help elevate it a little bit in terms of graphics, but really, what sort of gameplay things are they going to do? They're going to surprise us.
Yeah.
It can't just be the world that it's set in. It can't just be that it's a little bit prettier than before.
Yeah.
I think it really needs to find a new way to define itself. And if it is indeed coming and it is how they describe, I hope they can leverage the world to do that.
Yeah.
That'd be great. But
you can rip the eyebrows out of all sorts of new things.
Yeah.
They'll be totally different eyeball ripping.
Do you say eyebrows or eyeballs?
Eyeballs.
I just steal eyebrows and put them on my own forehead.
God damn it.
You never know how I feel because...
layers of emotion all written all over your face. Another rumor that's been floating around, Sony have had the Spider-Man IP for a while when it comes to the movie stuff. Word that perhaps Sucker Punch are working on a Spider-Man game.
like, I don't know if that's true or not, or if it's just that fanboy wish, because Infamous is a fun game.
Right.
But with that Spider-Man skin, it would be perfect. It just like fits that so well. But I don't know how true that is and how much that is just, that's something that would be really cool. It seems like it fits.
Like a dream. Yeah. I mean, Second Son was a fun game. I really enjoyed that. I'd like to see them, maybe take a deeper stab at it. Yeah, like, I guess what else, we don't know what else that studio is working on at the moment, right? Local boys, so we'll have to see. Yeah, there it is. Infamous Second Son, jumping around. Dan Reichert's in that game for some reason. It's very weird.
Really?
Yeah. He's like a bunch of the like Russian terrorist dudes.
Oh, that makes
like
sense.
Skins. Yeah, totally.
Well, like real life.
Yeah. There's another great resume floating around, a LinkedIn post for Knack 2.
Yeah.
Mark Cerny's Knacky Journey.
Mark
2.
Cerny's Sony Journey.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mark
when I
2.
think about PlayStation launch games that I was really hoping would get a reboot that I just wanted to dive into again, I immediately think of Knack.
They would be tone deaf if they announced Knack 2.
I feel like I hadn't heard of that game in years until I had heard about that.
But to be
but
fair,
then Mark Cerny's a powerful figure in Sony.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
architect of the PlayStation 4, weird guy to interview.
Which denotes power.
I know. I wish we had a recording of Martin Gaston's interview where Mark just stared at him and said nothing for a minute and 30 seconds. I mean, maybe, he's the dude who made a bunch of cool old PlayStation games. He could probably get away with doing another one, right? It wasn't a bad game. It was just like fine, right? It was a fine game.
It was exactly like Peter talked about earlier, where it's a game that doesn't feel like it needs to be on this next platform. It's just, this is another very old school game that's very pretty and nice to look at, but what does it do that elevates game, that makes this in any way a PlayStation 4 game?
Yeah. Who knows? I bet it'll turn off. I bet Knack 2 will turn off. I put money on it.
You know what'd be great is if they had Knack on screen, and then to sort of bring in Naughty Dog, they had Crash Bandicoot just like whirlwind through him and bust him up and be like, wrong, it's me.
I mean, without getting into spoilers, Crash Bandicoot has reappeared recently. Do you think maybe they go back to the Bandicoot? Go back to the Bandicoot watering hole?
I actually don't. I'd be very shocked if Naughty Dog made a new Crash Bandicoot.
It's kind of a one-note game. Like, it's fun, but like, what does a new Crash Bandicoot look like? It'd be the same problem Sonic's had forever.
Right.
It's like,
they already did the kart racing like Sonic.
Yeah.
They haven't done a fighting game.
There you go. Maybe a collectible card game. Yeah, we'll see. Anything else in terms of Sony rumors you guys want to talk about? I mean, 4.5 seems to be the thing everyone has their eyes on.
There has to be something. Sony's not, I wouldn't say a wild card, but there's going to be a surprise. And I feel like we're not going to see it. We're not going to have gameplay. We're not going to be able to do it, but we're going to get an announcement for it. We're going to see some really exciting trailers, both for Xbox and Sony PlayStation. There's going to be something that I can't even guess. And that's what has me most excited.
I'm just going to be super predictable and bring up Kojima.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Because there was that image that we got the other day that shows the face of the character like within like the mascot. And
what did you say again? I'm coming.
I'll keep coming.
I'll keep coming.
And so
that's disgusting, Hideo.
There's two things about that. One was we had producer Kenichiro Maizumi on record as saying this is not an image of or from the game we're working on.
Right.
And which a lot of people took as this is not going to be anything that is related to a game.
Right.
He since clarified with us like, no, that's not what I meant. What I meant was this is not a screenshot.
Right. Okay.
You can decide whatever you think this is. We're not commenting on that. So with that, plus with the fact that people were looking at that image and realized if you compare this angle to the hero shot of Norman Reedus from the press materials for Silent Hills,
right,
it's like the same eye fold. So,
really?
Yeah. So I think we're getting to a point now where we're not going to see like maybe a trailer. We might just see, we might see a teaser of what they're working on. Because we know Kojima's making a game that'll be on PlayStation 4.
That's wouldn't that be mental though? Because you're literally talking about like less than 6 months passing since he formed this studio.
But he's has to have something that you want to have something that he's going to show. And I mean, he's a veteran. He knows this industry inside and out.
It sounds like when you get your band together and you're a teenager and you make your website before you've written a song. It's like...
Well, perhaps. But, I at the same time, I think that there's a good chance that anything... I mean, look, we put up an image of just a character that people have already seen before, like 90% of that character. And it was, I think, the highest trafficking story on the site yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
So anything that they do will get people's attention. And to not capitalize on that opportunity is, again, a missed opportunity. So why wouldn't they?
That'd be great. love to see it. We'll have to wait and see. Not too much longer, only a couple of days. Less than a week before Sony take to the stage on Monday at probably 4 o'clock or something like
that. At a time?
At a time. To be determined. It's not determined. We know it. It's on the internet somewhere. Go Google it. Let us know what you think about Sony in the comments below.